Hello everyone and welcome to Bear in Mind's Bear Hug. This is my third video of 3 of the Wrestlemania weekend reactions videos, stroke results videos. This is night 2 of Wrestlemania. As I said with the video of night 1, I think this is one of the best WrestleManias there's ever been. And I think night 1 was so good that that could have been an event on itself. Night 2, before I go through all the matches, night 2 is so good, it could have just been WrestleMania. In days gone by, this could have been WrestleMania by itself. Nothing else. Didn't need a thing. And as such, yeah, I don't know what they're going to do next year to top this, or even match it. It's going to be, although I'm enjoying the build, I will enjoy the build, sorry. It's very exciting times. Obviously, the merger with UFC's parent company is going to potentially make some interesting things over the next 12 months as well. So who knows? Who knows? But let's start with the way that WrestleMania kicked off, at least night 2. Brock Lesnar versus Omos. As predicted, this was a surprisingly good match. Not a long match. We knew this was not going to be an absolute slobber. Well, no, it was a slobber knocker. This was not going to be an all-nighter. This was definitely under 10 minutes. Brock made Omos look like a beast. Look like an absolute animal. Not that he isn't, a legit 7'3", 410 pounds, which makes him bigger than anyone else that's ever been in WWE except for Giant Gonzalez, including Andre the Giant. He's significant. He's the size that WWE used to bill Andre actually being, even though Andre wasn't that tall. That's how big Omos is. But yeah, Brock made him look great. Brock made him look really good. And I know he hasn't really won many matches, but I think there is still definitely a future for Omos. I think he just needs to grow and grow and grow and work with the right guys. And you've got someone who potentially could be something very interesting down the line. In the meantime, he had a great match with Brock. Brock managed to get a few suplexes out of him. Didn't go for any belly-to-bellies. I think that was probably, I don't know whether that was deliberate or not. Obviously, they're not as easy to do to some of the significantly larger guys as a belly-to-back, I imagine. Or at least it doesn't look that way anyway, when he's done them before to the likes of the Big Show and what have you. So maybe it was a safety thing. But that F5 looked like a struggle in a good way. Obviously, again, easily the tallest person that Brock's ever done it to. So, although not necessarily the heaviest person that Brock's ever done it to, I think that would have been Big Show at his absolute biggest. He was definitely the tallest that Brock's ever done it to. And therefore getting that balance and being able to get that swing and do the move, to be honest, almost perfection. Like, that was as good as he does it to anyone, really. That was fantastic. Really good. Great way to open the night. On to the next match. We had the women's fatal 4-way match, similar to the men's one the night before. This seemed to be teasing that this was something to do with the winners get a number one contendership for the title. It does look that that's the way that this is going with the winners of this one. This is Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler who won that match, who are probably getting whoever the tag team champions are at Backlash. I know obviously the tag team titles did change hands this week. Possibly, I think Lita's injured. So I think the titles have come off of Lita and Becky. A good match. I don't think it was as good as the men's 4-way match. Although saying that, as I said in that video, that was essentially an 8-minute spot fest just to show each of the guys moves off, give him a decent outing. So maybe good's the wrong word, possibly just not as entertaining as that was, but decent enough anyway. Next, the other choice for match of the weekend. Obviously in my video of night one, I said that Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair was probably my match of the weekend. The other option being this, the Intercontinental title match between Gunther, Sheamus and Drew McIntyre in a triple threat match. Gunther said on an interview with Ariel Helwani that he doesn't like triple threat matches, so he wasn't particularly looking forward to this. Obviously, Sheamus and Drew have been around for a long time. They've had plenty of triple threat matches. They know each other very well. Sheamus has worked with Gunther a lot. Drew McIntyre, I don't know how much he's worked with Gunther, actually. I assume there must have been something on the indies when Drew was back in Impact in those 3 years away, and Gunther was possibly not hired by NXT UK at the time, so potentially they would have had something going on at that point. But yeah, 3 big, tough men absolutely pummeling each other for 20 minutes. In the end, Gunther won. I don't think anyone looked weak. There is some speculation as to whether Drew McIntyre is leaving in WWE soon, as his contract is due renewal. Even people speculating whether he'll go to AEW and do the Wembley show. Who knows? Who knows, in all honesty? But if this is his last WrestleMania, at least for a while, that was one hell of a match to go out with. Didn't get the win, but whatever. That was excellent, absolutely excellent. Next, we have the Raw Women's Title match, which was Bianca Belair and Asuka. Didn't go the way that I don't think any of us expected. I think we all sort of expected that Asuka was going to get this, what with Bianca Belair now being on a 1-year title reign, and this new slightly repackaged Asuka with the version of herself from that she used to have in Japan, the slightly darker Asuka. This was definitely Bianca's most challenging competitor or challenger since Becky Lynch. Definitely the one that stood the best chance of getting the title offer. I don't know where they'll go, in all honesty, other than potentially they might be looking at unifying the women's titles, which I'm in two minds with unification. I think I would like to see Roman's titles split again, because I think there's enough men to warrant having 2 world titles, one on SmackDown, one on Raw. I don't think the women's division, at least on the main roster, is deep enough most of the time to warrant 2 world titles. However, I would like to see a women's intercontinental title or something of the ilk. And it does need to be an intercontinental title like Gunther is making use of it, rather than a mid-card title like Austin Theory has. That's not a diss to Austin Theory. I think that the US title quite often is definitely, at least in my mind, a step down from the Intercontinental title. When the Intercontinental title is looked after properly, it is definitely the number 2 title. There have been times in the past where potentially, even when WWE've had 2 world titles, the IC title potentially is the number 2 title above one of those world titles. In the past, when going back to when I first started watching wrestling in the early 90s, there was a point there where the Intercontinental title was probably worth more than the WCW title. I know that's a little bit controversial, possibly, but I think it is the truth. And so that, I think, is what's needed for the women's division. So if they are going to do Bianca Belair versus Rhea Ripley possibly down the line to unify those titles, that'd be great. I possibly would like the loser to get said Intercontinental title, though. That the winner becomes the champion and the loser gets the Intercontinental title, which would start the title off on a good footing, at least, because it would be a fallen world champion that is the Intercontinental champion. So at least there's a very high bar to start it off with. Next we have our little gimmick match. Well, not gimmick match, our little comedy match. Our little breather, the toilet spot, possibly. For some, this was meant to be The Miz in an even more expensive suit than night one, facing another surprise opponent, this time Shane O'Mac, and the match started, and within about 30 seconds, Shane O'Mac did a leapfrog, landed a bit funny, and tore his quads. And the production team and Snoop Dogg had to think on their feet, and Snoop Dogg knocked out The Miz twice, and then did the People's Elbow, one of the worst People's Elbow runs that you'll ever see. But you could see in his face, he was absolutely loving every second of it. Again, it did what it needed to do. It was a match to have a breather after another really good women's title match. It wasn't as good as Rhea versus Charlotte, but then almost nothing this weekend is. To give the fans a breather, to give the fans a recharge time, to get them ready for Edge versus Finn Balor in Hell in a Cell. This was a slightly unfortunate match. Obviously, Finn Balor, relatively early in the match, got a nice big cut just there from the ladder. And the pictures that are on his Twitter and Instagram, they're like pretty graphic. So if you don't like gore, then I wouldn't go looking for them. They're not like hideous, but you'd certainly make you wince. So when the ref noticed how bad the cut was, obviously called the match doctors in. The match doctors did a super quick fix so that they could keep the match going, but it did take away some of the flow. Apparently they had to shorten the match as well, so there was more shenanigans that were meant to happen that we didn't get to see, which is a little unfortunate, because I think that the two of them, there was a really good build to this. Obviously it's a rare outing for the Demon as well, one of the only times the Demon's ever lost too, and which was surprising. I didn't expect Edge to win. I thought Balor not deserved, but I think there was probably, I felt like it should have been a Balor win. But maybe that was because they knew what was coming next, I suppose, and they needed the babyface to win on that match. But yeah, I think this could have been a hell of a lot more. I think this, maybe without the injury, and they'd done what they wanted to do, this may have been the match to steal the weekend. We'll never know, obviously. So on to the final match, Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes. The cynics will say this was the right time to do it, and that they should have pulled the trigger, and that this was just another Roman Reigns match, the same sort of pacing, the same sort of fluid motions and what have you, and just the bloodline coming out and helping him and what have you. And yes, there's definitely an argument for that. Will Cody Rhodes hold on to that thing long enough for him to get that title? Or will it just fizzle and this be a full-on Lex Express moment? I don't think it's going to fizzle, realistically, not quickly anyway. We'll see how his little run with Brock Lesnar's going to do, see how he gets through Brock Lesnar, because you have to assume he's probably going to beat him, unless there's other plans. It seemed possibly this was maybe even slightly because of the Endeavour deal, that they didn't want to take the biggest star arguably they've ever had away from that title while that Endeavour deal was going through, which, yeah, fair enough, maybe. But I think it's also part of the overall storyline that realistically Roman is the biggest ever. Roman has to get to WrestleMania next year in a position of some sort of power, whether that's with one or both belts, or somehow he's lost both, but he still needs to be the guy. He still needs to have some sort of reason. And that bloodline storyline is still going. The Usos only just lost the title the night before, so you needed to see them desperately clinging on to make sure that Roman didn't lose that title, so that Roman didn't break the bloodline up, or even worse, that Roman didn't whoop their asses for it. Because obviously he's head of the table. He's their king. He's going to absolutely murder them if they don't protect him and protect the bloodline. So I think it told the story it needed to tell. I think we're going to get a paranoid Roman. A Roman that's scared of losing it. Almost a Julius Caesar type of thing of and it's going to be multiple people stabbing him in the back potentially at the end. And the entire bloodline turning on him finally. This is also the first match where, realistically, the loser of the match has openly criticised Roman for needing the bloodline to win his matches for him, which Cody did on the Raw after WrestleMania. So we're going to start seeing the little criticisms of Roman from the characters as well as the fans. Excuse me. And yeah, there's a lot more story to tell here. Obviously, some interesting stats come up as well. Roman's not far off 1,000 days. 50 days after that, he will pass, I think it's 50 days after, he passes Pedro Morales. And then if he can make it to the end of January, I think is next year, then that is Bruno Sammartino's short run gone. If he makes it to WrestleMania next year with both titles still, and they haven't been unified, that we don't get a brand new belt, that it's still 2 titles, and therefore they count as separate runs, because of course he won the Universal title first, and at SummerSlam in 2020, and he won the WWE Championship at WrestleMania last year. He actually overtakes Hulk Hogan in number of cumulative days holding the WWE Championship in one form or another. So that would put him only put Bruno and Bob Backlund ahead of him in the all-time cumulative champions for a number of days. Obviously, he's not going to touch Backlund. Not quickly, anyway. I think there is maybe a chance before he retires that he gets enough days combined to touch Backlund. No one's getting to Bruno. Absolutely nobody's getting to Bruno. That would be obscene. But I think, I don't know. I think that might be the aim. I think that might be the aim of getting him to WrestleMania next year with both belts. Having it as the biggest cumulative championship, champion, since Bob Backlund, which is insane. But how he gets there, I don't know. But I will enjoy the ride. And that was WrestleMania. As I say, one of the best ever. I loved it top to bottom. Even the weaker matches needed to be weak so that the strong ones can be strong. They all had their position. They all did what they needed to do. And a couple of absolute highlights, of course, being Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte Flair on night 1, and the triple threat match for the IC title on night 2. But WWE still doing it, onwards and upwards, and next time it's Backlash, which I will watch and will review on here. Thank you very much. See you soon. Bye.